Hi! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be discussing The Unquenchable Mr. Kim by MORAK. Now, before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiling this manhwa, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. For those of you left behind, let's go over some content warnings. There may be references to dubious consent, imbalanced power dynamics, extortion, suicidal ideation, suicide, blood, obsession, cheating, murder, stalking, and violence, as these things do appear in the manhwa. But if that's all good with you, let's go and get started. Do-yeon is trying to stay alive and keep his job. Unfortunately, that's harder for him since he isn't your average human. Do-yeon is actually a half vampire. Because of his odd disposition, Do-yeon can't consume human blood. Thankfully, vampires aren't limited to just drinking blood to get their energy, but it's not any easier to get. Vampires can also subsist on essence, which they can get from humans by having sex with them. Do-yeon hasn't had a partner in a while, so he's pretty worn out. Food or coffee isn't enough to keep him moving along. So to make his life a bit easier, he's planning to find a sex friend. In his tired stupor, he intends to let his guardian know, but accidentally messages his boss instead. Fully prepared to get fired, Do-yeon goes to see his boss and tries to explain the unfortunate mishap. To his surprise, Chief Gangwoo isn't mad at all. Actually, he's very interested in Do-yeon's hunt for a partner, so he offers himself up to take the role. Needing to get essence and happy not to lose his job, Do-yeon is willing to give the chief a try. Unfortunately, things don't work out as well as Do-yeon hopes. As it turns out, his constitution is worsening, and essence is no longer enough. Will Do-yeon be able to find a new way to feed, or is he doomed to die an agonizing death? To preface this, I actually read this back on Tapas, but by the time I got around to reviewing it, it had been removed. Thankfully, good old Lezen has picked up this gem, and I've repurchased it and reread it there. Shout out to Tapas for being the platform I found it on initially, but if you haven't bought it there by now, you can't anymore. Lezen's the place to go for now, it seems. Now let's talk about the artwork. I could recognize MORAK's work a mile away. The style is very unique and super expressive. The way the facial expressions change and alter throughout the story is genuinely stunning. The eyes in particular are gorgeous. It isn't perfect from the very beginning. Faces are a bit too wide, eyes too small and far apart with a strange tilt, but once it settles into a rhythm, every character becomes very angular and beautiful. You'll have to give it a couple of episodes, but I promise it's so worth it. Our main character Do-yeon gets a beautiful redesign as the story goes along. The side profiles of the characters still aren't my favorite, with their faces sloping so far out that they could be used to hang laundry on, but it's not bad. It really is something to behold, and I've picked up every release I've seen thus far. I don't plan to stop anytime soon. I also love how this situation begins by sending a message to the wrong person. At my day job, we use instant messaging to communicate with each other, and this hit home in a way I can't even explain. I've never done anything as bad as asking my boss to be my sex friend, but I've missent some embarrassing things to the wrong people. It's a very easy mistake to make, easy to relate to, and it leads to a very steamy relationship. The setup is entertaining, but leads to inappropriate power dynamics between Do-yeon and the chief. Admittedly, the chief is an ass. He threatens Do-yeon with his job when he confesses to him to get an acceptance, he obsesses over him and essentially stalks Do-yeon, and he tends to force Do-yeon into sex. Don't get me wrong, I love Gangwoo. He's super sexy, and I love his obsessive and domineering tendencies, but I know this is not ideal for some people. The story itself is pretty fun and interesting until you get to the big finale. It comes in with a boom and goes out with a fizzle, so to speak. To save Do-yeon, they give Nox's blood to Gangwoo, which somehow makes his blood palatable to Do-yeon with no indication of how or why. I was also disappointed that we didn't get to see what the role of Nox really does beyond being a nuisance. There seems to be this underlying world of vampire politics and rules that are alluded to but never really explored. I also would have liked to have seen more development and background on Ju-young, since he seems to have an extensive history with Nox and others. That's such a small issue though when you've got so many other positives. With all that being said, this is a good old whirlwind BL classic. It's got some of the prettiest art and sexiest sex scenes in any manhwa ever. I read this over a year ago as of recording this, and I still find myself returning to marvel at it. The narrative isn't the strongest, but the love, sex, art, and characters make up for it quite well. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't read this one. So, have you read The Unquenchable Mr. Kim? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you not? Let me know in comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!